Hi, welcome back to the channel. I thought what I would do today is just talk about documented events, traceable records, and multiple witnesses. So let's take a look at what happened a week ago. Today is the 27th of July, 2025. So let's talk through this. What have we got? We have what is called the Christian Life and Ministry. You'll see the website here. You'll see the date, July 14 to 20. So it was last week. About a week has gone by. And it is the section Treasures from God's Word. And so here, with your third point, it's talking about wise principles for raising children. So it says, discipline them in a loving way, based upon Proverbs 22:15. Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a boy, but the rod of discipline will remove it far from him. And so the Watchtower reference that I was talking about in prior broadcast is this one. And it says, children are children, and some are prone to be contrary, even wayward. What can a parent do? Foolishness is tied up with the heart of a boy. The rod of discipline is what will remove it far from him, says the Bible. Some view this as harsh treatment that is out of date. Actually, the Bible is against violence and abuse of any sort. The rod, though at times literal, represents parental authority that is administered firmly but lovingly and appropriately out of concern for the children's eternal welfare. So, coming back to what this is all about, it isn't speculation. It's about very specific Watchtower reference there. That was read aloud in Christian Life and Ministry meetings just last week. Across South Africa, interconnected countries, via Zoom, transcribed, and open to the public. So to be clear, I've already sent traceable warnings to elders, to the branch, on when this previously happened. Was right in the middle of it. And I've made a deposition with SAPS, South African Police Station. Means having to do a lot of work, but that's fine. Police are very clear and actually helpful. And I'm grateful. I'm also grateful to the courageous brothers and sisters, those in the branch that have taken this seriously. Today I'm going to explain why last week's meeting, and today is the 27th of July 2025. So last week's meeting, at the time of recording this, it creates huge legal and moral consequences, and why the branch, elders and governing body can no longer claim ignorance. This should have been nipped in the bud when it first happened. It could have been contained. It could have been reversed. It could have been explained, but time has passed. So what's actually happened? Well, as you could see in the meeting last week, elders read from the Watchtower of April 1st, 2006, pages 9 to 10. And again, I'm going to re-emphasize, so it's just real clear. Foolishness is tied up with the heart of a boy. The rod of discipline is what will remove it far from him. The rod, though at times literal, represents parental authority that it is ministered firmly but lovingly. So this wording is not neutral. It openly leaves room for literal physical punishment. And we've got on record congregations that actually made commentary to that effect, not from the audience, from the platform. And significant congregations, if you want to call them model congregations. And so those that were attending those meetings are in position of tremendous fiduciary responsibility and oversight. So a mistake is a mistake, sure. If only we had corrected it when it didn't escalate. We could have, and it was very clear how we could reverse things. Very clear. In 2015, the Australian Royal Commission governing body member Geoffrey Jackson gave sworn testimony that Jehovah's Witnesses do not practice corporal punishment. And so there's a contradiction that's now in plain sight. Because you can have persons that want to uphold what Geoffrey Jackson has said, and you may have some who are in the know about what is there but have become very combative, or you have those in leadership responsibility who have no clue and they become combative. So why does it matter so much? Well, let's keep persevering. Once elders publicly encourage parents to see the rod as literal, even ambiguously, they place themselves, the congregations, the South Africa branch, whatever country has the same Christian life and ministry references, Watchtower reference, places the governing body under legal exposure because warnings have already been sent out. I'm going to speak for myself. I have written to the branch. I've used registered post and courier. I have receipts. I have warned elders. I've made deposition with South African Police Station, SAPS, South African Police Services. That means that if a child is now harmed because of this teaching, liability will be far harder to escape. The branch cannot say they didn't know, nor can the local body of elders. And I'm going to say, nor can some of the model congregations that went and did exactly the same thing again. So I spoke about a whistleblower removal. This is not for drunkenness. This is not for fornication. This is not for theft. And it's an ambiguous removal. We don't really know if this removal is legitimate or not. And there's very good reasons why it isn't. Because as soon as somebody in spiritual oversight goes against Jehovah's principles, his minister, it is technically a form of disassociation by behavior. So it's an installed elder, not necessarily a spiritual elder. That might be tricky to grasp that. But in times past, if somebody has taken an action that could have led to disfellowshipping or removal, that would be enough for disassociation. And disassociation is different from disfellowshipping in that you don't appeal that. So removal now, in this particular instance, is more ambiguous than normal, because this happened while there was communication going on. This happened in front of witnesses for safety, so that it cannot be argued. You see, very often elders will try to isolate a person in a whistleblower situation. In this situation, it wasn't allowed to happen. They were warned over again. So the whistleblower has been working on this for years, doing exactly what a loyal elder should do, following branch service desk information and direction. Yeah, they'd been contacted. So the material in how to handle this situation was well researched. And by the way, this connects a director of Jehovah's Witness assets who, in consultation, has said stand ground when it comes to a legal matter. And in consultation with Gilead instruction, that have said, yes, you may find yourself with theocratic disciplinary action, but here it is. Re-establish contact with governing body. That's the direction. And persevere. So this has all been done. Even with onlookers now, when things escalated and elders decided to put in place, I don't know, this ambiguous removal. And by the way, it was happening well before turning off microphones, speaking over, interrupting, disruptive, read out a current piece of material and no, we don't know what you're talking about. No, we're not looking at it. Because it's full on spiritual warfare. And I can trace where that has happened, not once, several times, and it's on record, very accurately, so that there is no conversation where you can be left in any doubt. And that terrifies those that are involved. So the material has been researched, direction on how to present this in a way that supported the governing body, Geoffrey Jackson at the Australian Royal Commission, his testimony. But instead of cooperating, local elders or circuit overseers, because it's a congregation that's kind of like a training ground for circuit overseers, and one's wanting to move into position of oversight. I've got to tell you, this congregation, when I first came across, it was full of pioneers. But when you looked at the records, they were putting in the same time as the country average. Maybe about the same, maybe a little bit less, I don't know. But I remember seeing the figures and recording it and going, okay, this isn't that much different to what the rest of the congregation is doing in terms of hours when it was still hourly reporting. And I discovered what that was all about. They were all doing work for the branch, making music, and yes, very fun, stimulating work, and that's nice, but it was all a credited thing, and it was that click. It's work that needs to be done, but it wasn't serving the needs of the field ministry. They were calling this area a needs greater, and I know why, because of the need for different languages to be catered for. But that all got shut down. Those language groups got sent away, and okay. Yeah, it's so much. Please forgive me with this. It's just such a lot of things that have happened. So the point is that local elders didn't cooperate. Some are completely not in the know, I'm sure. Very compartmentalized. Because you have guardians that are incentivized. And those guardians control the narrative. When they get into those positions of oversight, so there wasn't cooperation for not just one incident, a long time, stretching years. So midway through ongoing witness discussions, your whistleblower is removed. No elder, evaporates. No pioneer, evaporates. Years of service, 24 years, loyal service. Just months before retirement, in line with biblical precedent for Israel's priests. And if we look at Jehovah's Witnesses' own policy, it says removal requires solid grounds, transparent process, and witnesses. That's biblical. None of that happened. And the witnesses look at this and they go, we have seen what's happened. We watched this. Now I want to talk about POPIA, which is this data protection. You can look it up. This was violated. Records were manipulated, communication channels bypassed, and the narrative controlled. So your whistleblower is disciplined ambiguously, and even if it was legitimate, there's no path to trying to fix things and say, well, let's sort it out and come back. What's the path? But I'm going to say you could anticipate that this was going to happen. So the discipline was ambiguous, no explanation, despite following correct procedure from governing body, upholding sworn testimony. Yesterday I received information that rocked my boat, rocked my world. And I realized, it took me a while just to grasp what was going on. I realized it was nonsense. I had to just go back and second guess myself. By the way, that's going to happen. You're going to have to go and check, because they'll throw in a curveball, and you must make sure it's written, because there is so much information that goes by. You better have your wits about you, and you better make sure that you've got that evidence and challenge it. If they come in with a curveball, you say, when did it happen? Show me. You'll find they can't show you. If you've done it correctly, they'll be really hard pressed. And it'll be embarrassing. But you've got to do it in front of witnesses. You've got to now exhaust Matthew 18, 15 to 35. Exhaust it to the letter and bring it to the, I want to say, people's court, the city gates, because really that is what is required. That is scriptural. When all the other steps have been exhausted, then the whole congregation, the community, is invited to have a look at this. And it's a risk, because if I've made a blue, I'm going to have to fix it. I'm going to have to make amends and make genuine apologies and eat real humble pie. So this isn't a case of apostasy. It is the silencing of a loyal elder who became ill under pressure and in the environment in which they served after decades of service. We know why the illness is there. We can see it through the laboratory results. Let me tell you, it's all on record. So what does this mean for everyone? Not just the whistleblower. Well, the combination of the public announcement encouraging corporal punishment, the documented warnings to elders and the branch, the whistleblower elder removed in retaliation, besides others, creates a clear paper trail of liability. So, yes, there is a silver lining to this. There is a positive side in that it's recorded. Now, if a child is harmed now, anywhere in South Africa, Lesotho, we say Swaziland, that's the old name, Namibia, Western Botswana, or any country linked to these broadcasts, the organization cannot hide behind freedom of religion. The pattern is visible, it's traceable, it's documented. So this is now a public warning. Elders, parents, branch leaders, associate community are now on notice. The written records exist. The witnesses exist. The deposition exists. And if harm comes to a child as a result of this teaching, No one in the chain of command can say they didn't know. The time for evasive answers is over. The time for accountability has arrived. I want to say thank you again for coming this far, for listening to this update, this attempt to clarify. Thank you for being with me. You are the reason I am here. Thank you.